Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to review Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. She is a Canadian feminist, poet, writer. She's just all around a beautiful person, and I'm so glad I got to read her debut collection. It was originally self-published, and then because of its popularity, it zoomed into stores around the world, and now it is a New York Times bestseller. There were a few poems in here that stood out to me, and I will talk to you about those in a little bit, but let's just go ahead and talk about this poetry collection overall. So as you probably know, this collection is quite popular here on BookTube right now, as well as Instagram and online and things right now. Poetry to me is a very neglected genre, and I am changing that this year, and in fact I will be doing a poetry haul for you very soon. But this kind of kickstarted my love of poetry. I hadn't really read poetry since I was in school, so it's been a very long time, but I actually waited to get to purchase my own copy of this until I found it in the paperback issue. Barnes & Noble had it in paperback, but I kept passing it over for some reason, and then when I decided I wanted it, they had a lot of the autographed hardcover copies, and for some reason I prefer my poetry books to be in paperback form, so I waited and waited, and now I finally had it and I read it. It does go very quickly, and it's something you can revisit, so no issues on spending a lot of time reading it. One thing that I did love about it is all of the wonderful illustrations in here. So I will start with the cover. The cover is just so simple and stunning. It's got that soft buttery feel, and it's just so simple, and it's a great size. So I am totally digging this cover. Now let's go ahead and jump into the writing. The writing to me, just poetry in general. Now I'm not a poetry aficionado by any means, but poetry is really a lot about symbolism. And I find that if the author or the poet and myself have similar symbolism, or, have those same connections, then I will, really understand their poetry more. It will be more meaningful to me individually. But if our ideas of symbolism or something that they pick to symbolize something is so vastly different than the way I would symbolize it, it really affects my reading experience in a negative way. Luckily for me, this poet's symbolism is very similar to my own, which made me enjoy the collection more, and it also made it easier to read. There was a nice flow, and the collection itself really fit together. When I think about a collection of poetry, here's where it gets a little tricky, because poetry can really stand on its own. But when you're going to go ahead and publish a collection of your poems, I think of it like a fashion line or a fashion show or an art portfolio. There has to be an underlying theme or message. It has to be that connective thread that brings it all together. And in this, I really saw that. This is broken up into 4 different chapters, and each chapter handles a different topic. But even those topics seem to kind of weave themselves together, and I really enjoyed that about this collection. I'm not saying that every single poem in a collection has to fit the theme, but a few oddball pieces here or there is okay. But when every single piece is so different, it really chops up the reading experience, and it really makes it harder to read, and it makes it kind of messy and muddled down. But again, Milk and Honey did have that connective thread that kind of just made it seem like a story rather than just individual pieces itself. So I really enjoyed that part about it as well. Now, I have rarely read any poetry collections that have characters or a setting or a plot or conflict or resolution. Usually it sticks to you're talking about a character, or you're talking about a place, or you're talking about a conflict. But it's not like a normal novel or a normal story where all of those things, are together. So for those reasons, it's hard to rate poetry because it's a very individual thing. You know, how did it make you feel? Did you understand what they were saying, or do you think you understand? Because sometimes you think you know what the poet was saying, but really you have no idea. And it all goes back to that symbolism. Was it unique? Did it make you feel something good, bad, and different? So poetry is very individual to both the author or poet and to the reader, and everybody will have a different experience, and for that reason, like I said, it's hard to rate poetry. So Milk and Honey to me was overall really good. I rated it 3 stars. Again, I loved the illustrations inside, and there were a few, about 4 here that I have tabbed that I absolutely adored. The first one being on page 109, and it does have this lovely illustration here, but I'll just read it to you. It says, "I don't know what living a balanced life feels like. When I am sad, I don't cry, I pour. When I am happy, I don't smile, I glow. When I am angry, I don't yell, I burn." And I'm not going to read you the second stanza, but just that's how I feel. So I felt that there was like this connective thread between the poet and myself in that moment. This one is on page 152. It's a short little stanza. "It is part of the human experience to feel pain. Do not be afraid. Open yourself to it." And I just really needed that at the time of my life. And a lot of poetry, again, to me, is that like perfect timing type thing. Some poetry is super happy, some sad, some it doesn't really matter. But I feel that if you're feeling a poem in the perfect moment, it will mean more to you. And I think these 4 just hit me, you know, for the time being. That's why I love revisiting poetry. Definitely go ahead and pick it up because, like I said, it is a quick read. It's a good way to dabble into the poetry genre. It is a New York Times bestseller. It has great reviews. It's a gorgeous looking book, and a lot of people have read it, so you'll have people to talk to about it. But that is really my review. Let me know if you have read it, what you thought, maybe some of your favorite poems from inside. Let me know the page number or something like that so we can like chat about it and discuss our favorites. And also, if you really like poetry or maybe you have a recommendation for me, I would love to hear that from you in the comment section down below. But that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this review of Milk and Honey, and I'll definitely be picking up more of her work in the future when she puts something else out. I love her illustrations, and if you go to her website, it's just like so calm and she's so beautiful, and it's just so, it's just such a happy thing. But anyway, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!